my father started the firm in 1925, and in those days he was dealing in a cross-section of art, from paintings to continental and English porcelain, Chinese and Japanese art. He had a very nice gallery in the West End of London, and then he was offered to move to Kensington Church Street in 1953, and we moved here, and of course at that time there were approximately 90 antique shops in this street and the minor streets off the main road, and a very vibrant area for antiques, so we decided to move here. When I joined the firm, of course, I knew very little. My father would send me to view all the sales, and he insisted I touched and picked up every single piece in the auction. And it was a wonderful learning time, until I was rather surprised and perhaps a little bit shocked. My dad said, "Now you can go off buying by yourself." Well, of course, I was extremely apprehensive about this, and I realized as a young man that when I looked at Ming porcelain, there were famous firms like Blewett, Sparks and Sidney Moss, Hancock. They were all concentrating on Ming porcelain. And I realized that I could actually go to Blewett and Sparks, ask them for Qing Imperial porcelain, which wasn't on show, because probably they didn't consider it good enough, and they'd open cupboards and I could buy beautiful things. But it was an instant love affair, touching them, feeling the weight, the flared rims, the thickness of the porcelain, studying the marks. And it was a pleasure because I knew we could actually go to the main auction rooms and buy these what were actually treasures. I think my advice to any young Chinese people who wish to go into the business: handle the pieces, but go to museums. Because if you study the things and shapes in the museums, it will register subconsciously. And if you see enough of it, you'll see a shape elsewhere, and you'll remember that it's a Sung shape, perhaps an 18th century copy, but it's derived from the 12th century. And that's why it's imperative to go to museums, continually looking at the pieces. Of course, we're very fortunate in London. We've got the British Museum and the Percival David, and also at the Victoria and Albert Museum, there's wonderful treasures. So my advice to any learning Chinese people who come to London: don't miss the V&A or the British Museum. And they're absolute musts if you want to learn about the whole field. It's very exciting for Marchant to have our first sale to be held in China. In fact, we're very proud of the fact that we've been invited to do so. It's an interesting group of pieces we've selected. This is the finest Tai Bo Zun that Marchant has ever had. It has fantastic colour, and no doubt as many in the audience knows that there can be lots and lots of problems with this group. Difficult to control in the kiln, where you often have little patches of green and liver colour in the peach bloom. If I turn it over, I can show you the lovely Kangxi mark, 6 characters, beautifully written. And there's an interesting feature that there's little medallions in an Anhua hidden design underneath the glaze. And it certainly is something that we've only been able to buy because of our very, very long relationship in Japan through my father, the first generation, and now with Stuart, the 3rd generation, visiting Japan. The second lot being offered by Marchant is this pair of 5-claw dragon bowls on a yellow ground. An interesting point about it is that all the dragons' outlines are incised in the biscuit, and then we turn it over and we see this lovely show character, Long Life, on the interior well. And if you look at the profile, a superb flared rim, very delicately potted, and a lovely, beautifully written Kangxi mark. And these are in perfect condition and would grace any collection.
One of the best pieces which Samuel Bazini bought from Marchant is this stem cup. We put it on the front cover of one of our catalogues. It's very famous. It's known as San Bro. It has 3 fruits painted on it: a pomegranate, a peach, and a persimmon. The remarkable thing about this stem cup is that the underglazed copper red came out perfectly as the potter had intended, and the underglazed blue also came out perfectly. There are only 3 other examples of this stem cup known. It has the very famous Yongzheng mark written in a line on the inside of the foot rim. Amazingly difficult to write in there. It has survived in perfect condition, and in our opinion was one of the stars of the Bazini collection. The second piece is this remarkable jardiniere and stand, also from the Yongzheng period, 1723 to 1735, a very short reign in which the potters and the artists made things of incredible quality. The lovely story about this jardiniere and stand is that Marchants remarried it. The stand came from the Goldschmidt collection, which my father helped form in the 70s and 80s. It has a beautiful Yongzheng 4-character mark, typically written on the underside. The colour is sometimes called clair de lune, colour of the moon. The jardiniere was purchased separately from another collection, and again has the same archaic style Yongzheng mark. Together they make a wonderful piece of jardiniere and stand in perfect condition. One of my personal favourite pieces in the Bazini collection is this remarkable stem bowl, incised on the body with 8 precious objects. Its yellow colour is the classic Imperial yellow, also of the Yongzheng period, with a beautifully written seal mark. The last Bazini piece I'm going to talk about today is also of the Yongzheng period. It's remarkable, and people don't realise how rare this group is, because the moulding is in relief, actually in high relief, and then it's carved when the body is leather wet. The generous proportions of the flaring rim make the piece really exciting to hold and touch. And the mark, again, unlike the previous ones, this is a 6-character mark within a double ring, but beautifully written. The body is the finest smooth biscuit, and the clarity of the pale celadon glaze is terrific. We originally purchased this piece in the 1970s, and we sold it to the famous American family, the Kogers, Ira and Nancy. They were terrific clients of Marchant. They sold the bulk of their collection in New York, and they donated all their blonde sheen to the museum in Jacksonville. We were lucky enough to buy back this wonderful Yongzheng bowl and sell it to Samuel Bazini, who has enjoyed it for many years in his home.
This bowl from the Lande collection is one of my personal favourites and actually one of the finest pieces from the Qianlong reign in his collection. It's particularly charming because the design goes over the wall, which you tend to only see on extremely fine pieces of porcelain in the Yongzheng and Qianlong reigns. Quite often leaves are shown in a single tone of green, but on this particular bowl you have two tones of leaves on the bamboo, and you also have two different tones on the same leaves of the balsam pear. The balsam pear symbolises abundance and fertility for future generations. The butterflies symbolise beauty and vitality, and the bamboo is a symbol of strength. So this bowl as a whole resembles the continuation of family and future generations. The base contains a beautifully written underglazed blue 6-character seal mark of Qianlong. This bowl was previously handled by Blewett, and Marchant have actually handled it twice in the past before selling it to Mr. Paul Lande.